Okay. Before we move into some new material, we talked about mechanists and vitalists. You did a good job describing what your presuppositions were about this prior to coming to Sherman College. Okay? Here's another one from the test. An OIBU chiropractor. What do they do for the headache? Remember that question? And an ADIO chiropractor. What do they do for the headache? Why are so many of you putting the OIBU chiropractor would prescribe drugs? We don't do that.
What if he did like a massage, like?
You're not allowed to prescribe drugs or recommend drugs. You would not recommend drugs for a headache if you're an OIBU chiropractor. You could do some other therapies to treat the headache, but you could not prescribe even over-the-counter pills, you can't say. You can't say go and take a Tylenol. That's outside your scope. Okay? So the ones that some of you are missing, and not everybody, a lot of you are getting them, it's just what's coming to mind. But that's wrong. They shouldn't say that. Legally, they're not allowed to say that. You can't give recommendations about drugs. Okay? The outside-in chiropractor would do outside-in things to treat the headache, but you're not allowed to do the drugs part. You could give the adjustment to fix the headache. That would be outside-in. Right? Yeah.
In some schools, like, there are, like, in some states are allowing the law for chiropractors to give shots and pushback.
Yes, they're trying to do that.
Okay, so it hasn't fully been passed, but
no.
Like in the, okay.
Right.
I think that's probably
right. Okay. Mechanist. Is a mechanist a questioner or a believer? You don't have these slides, I don't think. Is the mechanist a questioner or a believer? Or what's the difference between a questioner and a believer in the first place? What's the difference between a questioner and a believer?
Believer's like a follower.
Hugo, what do you think?
Maybe their philosophy. One will think that will get it on faith, and the other one will go by mechanical.
Okay. So who asked questions?
Both of us.
They both ask questions. Who believes? They both believe, but they believe different things. What does the mechanist believe? They believe that the material measurable is all that exists and that they can measure it. That's what they believe. So they ask questions based on that. What does the vitalist believe? Relative to chiropractic, we would say we think there's something more, or we believe there's something more than just the measurable. Would we ask questions based on that? Yes. We would still ask questions. As a vitalistic profession, we still have to ask questions. It's called research. And a profession should be doing research. The reason why I point this out is because people in your own profession of chiropractic will tell you if you think there's an innate intelligence in the body, you're a believer and not a questioner, which means you're a believer and not a scientist. Okay? You most certainly are expected to have a science side of your brain working. Why is that? It's one of the three legs. We are a philosophy, science, and art. We have to ask research questions. It's based on what our philosophy is. It's based on what we believe. Okay. Here is a quote that's taken from a religious conversation. Do not get confused that I'm trying to make chiropractic into a religious conversation. I'm not. Your personal religious beliefs could meld really nicely with chiropractic, but I'm not even going there. I'm using this as an analogy. Okay? This person says, we who are at the moment making and suffering history know there's only one history. There's only one today, November 7th, 2017. Okay? But it can be understood theistically or atheistically. But there's only one day. Your frame of reference will determine how you see it. Right? So my analogy is this. In chiropractic, we have to decide, do we see the human body as adio or oibu? Do we see life as adio or oibu? Okay? Because there's one way to see it. Which is the best way to see it? That's what you're challenging yourself to do. Does life flow from above down and from the inside out, or does it flow from outside in, below up? What is your perspective going to be? So that's why I asked the question about prior to starting school, what was your presupposition, what did you think, how were you thinking, and monitor, where does that go? For 14 quarters, you will be hit with a lot of outside-in things, just like you did growing up in the culture. Right? So know where you want your roots to be. If you want to change, this isn't going to work, is it? There's no hand. There's no hand. If you want to change the way people think, you got to come up with a way to catch their attention, right? You present them with a new world view. The question on the test, give an example of the body healing itself, the Hippocrates quote, right? And some of you are putting broken bones and cuts and immune system and inflammation, and you're pointing out, look how smart the body is. Okay, that's good. You're doing great on that question. All right? What do you do in business if you want to make more money?
Make a better product.
If you're the boss, what do you do to get better productivity out of your employees? Incentives? Bonuses? Let me see if I can... Don't tell me I'm not going to be able to find this. Why does it play in some rooms and not others? Right? Paradigm shift, worldview shift.
When we asked Reebok to send us Terry Tate, some people thought we were crazy. But I'm a firm believer in paradigm breaking, outside the box thinking. Amen. And since Terry's been with us, our productivity has gone up 46%. We're getting more from our employees than ever before.
You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard. That ain't new, baby. Hey, Janice.
But what's really impressive is how Terry's become part of the Felcher family. He fits right in here.
That's a long distance call, Doug.
To be honest, I wish Reebok sent us 10 Terry Tates.
Well, when it's day time, it's pay time, baby.
That's a different paradigm. That's actually how some people will feel when you tell them, do you know your body has this under control? You know pain is a good thing? It's not a bad thing? It's letting you know that there's a problem. You have an opportunity to make a shift, to make a change. that hits some people the same way Terry Tate was hitting those folks. Because they've been so accustomed to just covering over the problem. Okay? There's a bunch of good Terry Tate clips out there. Okay. Piece of scrap paper. I'm not going to collect this. I need you to keep a tally in your head or on a piece of paper someplace. Do you recall facts and dates, or do you recall images and patterns? Which of those is easier for you to do? You want to make two columns, A and B. Just put a check mark for each A and a check mark for each B. Do you remember people's names, or do you remember their faces? Do you speak with few gestures, or are you Italian? Do you look tidy and organized, or do you look disorganized?
Is that like how I see it or how
You.
Oh.
How you see it. Do you trust your logic or your gut? Most of the time. Do you do things because they're logical or because you have an emotional feeling about it? There's no middle. There's left and right. Most of the time. Okay? You should have a total of 6 checks between A and B. 3 more. Processing information linearly means first I'm going to think about this, and then when I'm done with that, then I can think about this, and then I can think about that, versus processing a bunch of different things all at the same time. When do you thrive? When you're doing one thing at a time, or when you got a bunch of things going on in your head? That's what that's asking. Which one? Got it?
Okay, thank you.
We good with 9? Yeah?
Oh, okay, hold on. I gotta make another.
What?
What was 8? I have 8. I'm sorry.
Do you respond to the meaning of words or the pitch and the feeling of how the person says it? You have to love sarcasm. You should always keep that handy. You never know when you need it. What's that? Are we good with 8?
Yes.
Last 4. Any questions with these? Your day. Do you get up and, I feel like brushing my teeth. Oh, but now I'm going to walk the dog. Or do you have an order? Do you do things in sequence?
Again, that's like a. I'd say, I don't know. Because some days, it is.
If you like to be free and just take it as it comes, you're more random.
I'm both.
If you're more random, you have a hard time with the registrar telling you where to go to class every day, right?
But that's not your day.
Do you think about what's going to happen when you make a certain choice? Or do you buy it because it was on sale and you liked it?
That's a better.
Maybe you didn't even need it.
It's on sale.
Do you need anything? Show up to Applebee's, 2 for $20. I'll buy myself. Am I still going to pass up that deal?
I can't tell you how much money we've saved when my wife goes shopping.
Oh, that's what my mom said.
But she keeps telling me how much money we saved because of her shopping outings. All I know is how much we spent. Right? Okay. I got that wrong, didn't I? We need a 0. There's a total of 12. Huh?
There's more than 12 questions, right?
13.
Okay, you said it was a total of 12.
I think it was a total of 13. Was it 13, right?
That's 13.
Okay. You got your A-B ratio? 0 and 13. One and 12. Two and 11. 3. 3 and 10. Hands high. 1, 2. 4 and 9. 5 and 8. Okay? This is easy math. 6 and 7? 7 and 6? 8 and 5? 9 and 4? See who your partners are there. 10 and 3? 11 and 2? 12 and 1? 13, 0. Okay. We got 3 that are 11 on the B. That's the high. And the high on the A would be, what's that? 8, 5? Emphasizing the A. Those of you towards the bottom. By the way, there's no right place to be. And if you're 7, 6, 6, 7, don't think you're better balanced. Right?
6, 7 is definitely better.
It just means you can switch from your left brain to your right brain easier.
CO6 saying I'm both on
Okay.
stuff, you know?
You like words. Who likes words? These people prefer words. You like numbers and lists. You like logic. Chiropractic, we're going to get into next week, is logic. We're going to get into deductive reasoning, which is logic. That's why I know when somebody leaves my office, they're better off when they came in, even if they still ache, because they don't have subluxation. But we'll talk about the logic behind that. You like analysis. You like order. You like to look at the parts. This doesn't mean if you're emphasizing the left brain that you can't be a vitalist. You have to look at the parts. You're palpating parts. You're x-raying parts. You're studying anatomy and physiology. That's all parts. You like doing that. Right? You should be getting A's in those classes. Right brainers. Rhythm. You like when your day flows. Color.
Does that mean like being like a space cadet?
Who are those three people? Okay. I'll keep my eye on you three. Okay? Daydreamers. Imagination. Space and the ability to move through dimensions. Does this mean you like to watch Star Trek or something? I don't know.
Yes, I do.
Okay? You think about things. Maybe you think about the immaterial things easier or differently than somebody who looks at the steps. But we can both think about the same things. And you like to look at the whole. So does that mean this person is going to be terrible at reading x-rays and palpating? No, they're going to just feel it differently. They're going to see it differently. Does this mean this person can't see the whole? No, they'll have a different understanding of the whole because they've analyzed the pieces. Somebody could analyze a car and all the different things that a car does and the computer that runs it and get a greater understanding of the human intelligence that put that car together. Okay? Nobody's better or worser than the next. Okay. If I got this set up right, I want you to tell me what color you see. Okay, everybody. At the same time. Not just 5 people.
Three.
Okay? Who was trying to read the words?
I read the words every time.
I read the words every time, and I do this every quarter. You know, I have a hard time just seeing the color, but I like colors. But I see the word before I see the color. Okay. Thinking is hard work. That's why you're tired after your study. That hurt. Okay, any of those potentially cause subluxation? Some of those were pretty bad hits on the spine. The head, the butt. Yet when your case history form asks people, have you ever had any falls or traumas? They will frequently put no. And they've lived through stuff like that. But they didn't need stitches. They didn't get knocked unconscious, so they had no trauma. Right? But all of those people could benefit from getting checked because that could have done something. Right? You could adapt to all those falls as well and not need an adjustment. But you don't know if you don't get checked. So moving along into deductive reasoning. We use the mind alone. No test tubes, no rulers, no scales. We're just going to go sit in the corner and think. And we can do deductive reasoning. No experiments. We're going to start with an assumption, something that is obvious. We're going to call deductive reasoning logic or pure reasoning. So what would be an example of an assumption that we start with? A self-evident truth. You got a cut. You saw the cut heal. You didn't do anything to it. Right? You broke out into a sweat and your fever came down. You didn't do anything. Your skin got a little bit darker in the sunlight. It adjusted to the ultraviolet radiation, all on its own. You have these observations about yourself. What could your overriding assumption be about your body? It knows what's best. How else could we say it? It adapts. It adapts to my environment. That would be an assumption. You didn't measure that. You could measure the adaptability of your body, but you didn't. You started thinking, gee, I think human beings have the ability to adapt. I think the human body has the ability to adapt. That would be an example of an assumption. Is that self-evident? Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't seen everything, but I saw a cut heal. I saw my skin get tanner. What assumptions can we make about the human body? There are two that I'm thinking of. It is blank, or else it is blank. Living or dead? Okay. Let's work with the living one. It is or, okay. It's adapting or not adapting, healthy or sick. It's organized or disorganized. It is intelligent or it is not intelligent. If your assumption is that the human body is not intelligent, then what would you want to do as a doctor? If you looked at the human body as being non-intelligent, as a doctor, what would you try to do for people? Give them something to control it, because the body's not intelligent to control itself. So you might look for things outside to put inside to make the body better. If your assumption is that the human body is intelligent, what kind of choices might you make? Let's not get in the way of that intelligence. What are the limits of that intelligence? What could that body do for itself? Can it get through this fever on its own? Can it get through this strep throat on its own? What assumptions could we make about symptoms?
Good or bad for the body?
They're good. They're bad. One more. They are. They're just there. They're a sign. They're a clue. Or you could judge it, good or bad. What assessment, what assumption does the majority of people in our culture make about symptoms? That they're bad. Because they feel yucky. We understand that. We may have lived that. We may still live that. Understand that those are deductive assumptions. Oh, that's a bad thing. I have to do something about that. My child has a fever. I have to get that down. I have a runny nose. I have to make that stop. A major premise is an a priori statement. That's Latin. So that lets you know that, you're doing something smart. Major premise, a priori statement, or starting assumption all means the same thing. Chiropractic has a major premise. Universal intelligence is in all matter, continually giving it its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. That's the major premise of chiropractic. This is our principle number 1. That is our starting assumption. Who's uncomfortable with that? Why would somebody be uncomfortable with that? Can I measure that? I can't measure it. I can't measure it. let's say I think the human body is intelligent, and it organizes itself and maintains itself in existence. Is it logical to assume that the human body is organized and intelligent if the universe that that human body is in is disorganized and not intelligent? That would be a hard stretch. How could I have something intelligent within something that's not intelligent or organized? So since Palmer was going to talk to us about the intelligence of the body, he stood back, right, and took a longer view, like when you go up in the plane, you can see more of the earth than you can when you're in your car. From outer space, you can see even more. He took a longer view and said the whole universe is organized. There's intelligence manifesting in the whole universe. We're going to deal with human beings as a piece of that universe. Does that major premise sound like it could be religious? Could this universal intelligence, this higher intelligence than my educated, could that be a religious concept? Could be. Does not have to be. If it were a religious concept, then what would that say about the atheist who wants to be a chiropractor? They couldn't. If this is a religious statement, what would that say to people of different religions? One of you can be a chiropractor and the other one can't? Or only people of one particular belief system could be chiropractic patients, but the rest of them couldn't be? Palmer made a specific point of not saying God. In your personal worldview, you could believe that God holds the universe together. But chiropractic as a profession doesn't say that. We start with the idea that the universe is organized, intelligence is manifested through the properties and actions of matter in the universe. What do your iPads manifest right now? What kind of intelligence? Who designed and put that iPad together?
Steve Jobs.
Some kind of human intelligence. Right? That manifests educated human intelligence. What kind of intelligence is manifested in our universe? Palmer just recognized that that intelligence is there. If you want to go investigate where that intelligence comes from, and that leads you into your own study of theology, what God is, then that's good. But chiropractic doesn't have to do that as a profession, because chiropractic isn't a person. Right? I would hope that we all do that at some point in our lives. But right now, understand this is where your profession starts, as given to us by the people who founded it and developed it. We recognize that things are not happening by accident. There's something that makes the matter of this podium stay together. It's exhibiting the properties of the matter. Something makes those properties happen. That's all that says. That should probably, make the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up if you're a real science-thinking person, because you can't measure that. But you can see it. You can't measure innate intelligence, but you see what it does. The sperm and the egg come together. The two cells become one. The one divides into two, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Keeps happening. And then after 9 months, what do you got? 7-pound basketball. No, you got a human being with all different diversified kinds of cells in it. There's something intelligent in that matter. That's what we're tapping into every time you give an adjustment. You're allowing that intelligence to do what it needs to do in the person you adjusted. That's a lot bigger than headaches and back pain, because you don't know what that person needs in any given moment. An assumption about some aspect of reality, you can't prove that universal intelligence is there. It's the starting point for deductive reasoning. But I'm going to use a little bit of science to even get there. See how they're going to fit together. And we're going to talk about inductive reasoning next. So we'll paint a more complete picture how they come together. I could also get to my deductive reasoning starting point through my faith. Suppose I believe in the Judeo-Christian model concept of God and He created the universe. Right? If that's the case, then this makes sense to me. But suppose I don't have that belief. Suppose I look at the sun rising in the east and setting in the west every day. Suppose I see autumn coming after summer every year and before winter. And suppose I see the high tides and the low tides occurring like clockwork every time I go to the beach. To me, that looks like the universe is organized. That has nothing to do with faith. I saw it. So because I saw it, that's inductive, then I can make this statement. So the things you see could lead to the things you think. And we'll have to repeat that a few times, but chew on that. The things you see can lead to the things you think. The minor premise has to be related to the major premise. Major premise said universal intelligence organizes the universe. If humans are a part of the universe, then they must have an intelligence in them, right? So my minor premise is human beings have an intelligence. That's connected to my major premise. Human beings having intelligence is my minor premise. And we're going to draw truths out of this. Let's see if I got an example before we quit for the day. No, we'll come back. We'll start off with that next time. We'll go through some examples of these things. Major premise, that's the big thing we're going to leave you with deductive logic. It's your starting point for where's your logic. You shouldn't be afraid to ask your good buddies, check my logic on this. Is my thinking good? Because if you're thinking good, you can learn a lot by deductively thinking about it. Do good on your midterms. You got a test today? Ooh, easy time.
Thursday.